Welcome everyone once again. So we will start with the today's subject, which is spleen. So am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So when most of us or many of us who before joining to acupressure, we had not heard the name of this organ called spleen. We had heard heart, liver, so intestines, etc. But this organ, probably most of us would have not heard. In Western sciences, it has little significance, but in TCM, this has lot of significance. So we'll try to understand what is the functions of TCM, what is the functions of spleen as per TCM. The first function is to digest food and fluids. Okay. So these are the main points. We will go into depth of each of them. So we'll just try to read out the headings. So the functions of spleen is to digest food and fluid. And whatever it does, digests that food, it will add its own software or energy called as food key. So it disperses that food key throughout the body, mainly to hands and feet. The third one is it controls the RBC and WBC. And fourth one is transforming the food, transporting the food, holding the blood, and raising the organs against the gravity. So these are the four main functions, and we will get into the details of each of them. So the first one is it digests food and fluids. So here we should know that when we put food, it first comes into the stomach. In TCM, we know that both stomach and spleen are a paired organ. So it is, these two organs are next to each other. With the combination of these two organs, the food gets digested. So both stomach and spleen belong to the earth element in TCM. Together, they help in digestion of food. All the mastication, etc., etc., churning, ripening, rotting of the food happens because of these two organs. And if there is any disturbance in this function, the following symptoms occurs. Okay. Like there is heaviness in abdominal area and distension. There is low appetite and loose stools. Like these are very key kind of attributes to pinpoint on an organ. Anytime when we see patients, how do I identify spleen is the organ that I'll have to treat out of so many organs? How do I? This is the loose stools is one of the important signs. And low appetite. Why low appetite? It is something like this. It is say you don't feel thirsty. It means that there is already enough water in the body, and there is no need for the extra water, or the already present water in the body is not used. That is why I don't need extra water. And similarly, or in the opposite, I drink a lot of water. It means that the body doesn't have enough water So to compensate for that, I drink lot of water. Right? This is a simple logic. What is already there in the body doesn't want more. What is not there in the body wants it. Okay. So if we apply that logic over here, low appetite means the body doesn't want to take food. Why? It is because already the existing food is not getting digested properly. Right? So whenever there is low appetite, the reasons can be many, but main reason is already the existing food is not getting digested properly. So it is already sitting there, it is not getting dispersed. So why to take more food and increase the workload? So that is the way that I see the reason for low appetite. And the loose stool, it is that when we eat the food, it goes through this long pipe. Okay, the stomach, small intestine, large intestine. In all of this process, the whole travel of within this tube, the food is getting processed and it is moving through this peristaltic movement. Okay, and it gets a shape. Okay, like when the food that we eat, it is in the bolus form. It goes, and when it is moving from stomach to small intestine and large intestine, it is getting the nutrients is getting absorbed. Any small amount of digestion still pending happens there also, but mainly it is taking a right form of consistency. The stool is taking a nice proper shape and the consistency, like no undigested food is remaining in the stool, etc. Those kind of things. Like those who probably cook, okay, ladies, no, at least from the Indian background, those who say make chapatis or rotis. See, when the dough is in the right consistency, it is easier to knead the dough. It will not stick to hand, or it is not very hard. Okay, all the characteristics, like while kneading itself, that the dough is in the right consistency. Okay, that type of consistency comes in the stool when the spleen is in right energy level. If the energy level of the spleen is low, the stool will not be in a nice rope kind of format. It will be all broken, piece kind of stool, and there will be undigested food in the stool. So these are the two telltale signs that spleen is not all right. It needs to be looked into. Okay. So these are the main points of related to digestion. Okay. So these two put together, the stomach and the spleen, digests the food, and when the digestion is not happening properly, these three main symptoms come into picture, and I explain why these symptoms come in. Okay. The next one, the spleen versus the food key throughout the body. We also discussed in the earlier, for some of the earlier classes, that when the food key is sent to the lungs disperses that food key under the skin as a defensive key. Just a moment. Okay. As defensive key, but also some amount of that food key is sent to the limbs, that is both hands and both legs, by spleen, and that food key which is sent to the limbs, hands and legs, is what nourishes the hands and legs. When the spleen is weak, the nourishment does not reach the arms and feet, so the limbs tend to become thin and the abdomen tends to become big. So this is a kind of a telltale sign. When if somebody is trying to become big, the entire body should become big, including the hands and legs. In some cases, the hands and legs become weak, but only the abdomen is becoming big. What does it mean? It means that the nutrition is not getting supplied to the limbs. That is why they are not, the muscle mass is less in the limbs. In that cases, so by seeing the patient itself, it should click to us that it is a case of spleen. Spleen is deficient. That is why it is not nourishing the limbs. Okay. And these kind of people will also have fatigue throughout the day. Okay. So this is the second function of the spleen, that is to disperse the food ki throughout the body, especially to hands and feet. Okay. The third one is it controls RBCC and WBC. So in TCM, we call spleen as the burial ground for RBC. Okay, whenever the RBC is like about to die or dead, so it gets disintegrated in the spleen. So whenever there is, okay, not asking question, please mute yourself. Whenever there is hemorrhage anywhere in the body, what is hemorrhage? The blood is leaking. Okay, anywhere in the body, if the blood is leaking, then as a therapist, the first organ to which our attention should go is spleen. There is a specific protocol called spleen not controlling the blood. Okay. So you could think of that protocol. Say for example, some people, there is what we call it as purpura. Under the skin, the blood is leaking, so it creates dark patches. Okay. The work of the spleen is to control the blood inside the vessel, which we will learn next. If it is not doing, then that blood leaks out of the vessels and that purpura is happening. And also if there is a cut somewhere and that blood is not getting blocked, okay, properly or fast enough, once again it shows that it is a problem with the spleen. So I want, okay, I'm trying to mute Parimala madam, if you could mute yourself. Okay. When so we were discussing that the spleen controls the blood, that is holds the blood within the blood vessel, and if there is any problem in that process, if excess of blood is getting leaked out, okay, then we should treat the spleen. And also I told the dead RBCs are processed in spleen. So human body is such that anything useful or it tries to make best use of everything which is inside the body. Even if the RBC is dead, it kind of disintegrates and tries to make you whatever best that it can be taken out. Only the most useless thing is what the body throws out. If there is some amount of use in anything which is trying to release back, it tries to reabsorb it. Say for example, in stool, even if there is some extra water in the stool, it tries to reabsorb. Okay, even if there is some kind of minerals which is needed for the body, it will reabsorb in the urine. It will not just throw it out. Okay, it is very mindful. The body is mindful. It doesn't waste anything which is needed. So similarly, when the RBCs gets old and if it is about to die, then it disintegrates it, and anything which can be pulled out of it and made use, that it does. Okay. And when it comes to this is for RBC. When it comes to WBC, spleen is a major lymphatic gland which is a part of defense or immune system of the body. Okay, we know that WBC is the defense system, and the lymph which is flowing in the body, that lymph is controlled by spleen. Okay, and that lymph is once again a very big part of our immune system or defense system. So even that lymph is controlled by the spleen. So we can say that both RBC and WBC is controlled by spleen. It takes care of both of them. Okay. So in another way, we can also see that the blood chemistry, the quality of blood is controlled by spleen, or I can say a big portion of blood quality is controlled by spleen. Okay. So next, spleen. Okay, so we have just 10 minutes left. So once the meeting ends, we will rejoin the meeting without any break. Okay. So these important functions: transformation, transportation, holding, and rising. We had discussed about this earlier. So this will be a repetition. So if I eat some food, say I eat a mango, none of the body looks like mango, right? The mango has to be turned into human body. Who does that process? Spleen does that process. That is, transforming food into human body is done by spleen. Now that food gets transformed. Now that has to be transported throughout the body, right? In different forms like blood, etc. I'm not getting into the details of it because in some of the previous classes, in the lungs class, etc., we had discussed in detail. It is only I'm briefly touching these points. So now this food, the food key, has to be transported throughout the body. That also is taken care by spleen. And as we discussed in the last slide, the blood which is flowing in the vessels has to be kept within the vessel itself. Okay, when we look into the scientific facts, or like in the Western medicine form, there is, let's say, like there is pressure around the body, on the vessels. That pressure keeps the blood moving within the vessel, and the actual physical boundaries of the vessel holds it together. There are different explanations for it. But what TCM says is spleen is the one which is holding the blood within the blood vessels. Okay. And the fourth one is rising. See, when anything that we put, okay, even if we put a pen, okay, let's say there is a pen, I put it, what happens? It just drops. Anything which is above the surface of earth, the earth is constantly trying to pull it down through gravitational force, right? Now imagine our human body. There are so many parts within the human body. If there is a hair, okay, let's say I comb it like this, but as per the gravitational force, the hair should be always coming down, but still some of the hair is standing, right? And there are so many internal organs, like say there is heart, there is lungs, there is intestine. It should be, as per the physics, they should be all falling downwards, but all these organs are sitting in one proper place, its own predefined place. It is not moving around. Even if you run or you fall some height, the organs doesn't get disturbed here and there. It still stays within its predefined position. Say if you put some marbles inside the jar, glass jar, okay, and you drop the jar, what happens once the jar drops to the earth? The content within its inside gets dispersed. The marbles will get dispersed on the floor everywhere. Now, but when a human being falls, the organs doesn't get dispersed here and there. It still stays within its place, and it stays against the gravity. Who does it? As per TCM, it says spleen is the one which is holding the all the organs in its place. See, when it comes to anatomy and physiology, we say that there are different tissues or no, which are giving the support. But who is giving the support to the tissues? Like tissue is also under the same gravitation, pull of the gravitational pull. So it should be something should be giving support to it. But like when we see it is getting stuck to bone somewhere, okay, some strong muscles or bone, that is where it is giving a holding capacity. But when the spleen gets deficient, the more and more, like when it comes to the sinking stage, what happens? The organs starts moving away from its original location. You could have seen that, the ear, it starts falling down, like Buddha's ear. Like some people you would have seen when they wear earrings, it will be stretched. It means that the ear lobe is not fitting in its place. For some people, like the stomach will be sagging, or the triceps area, okay, below the biceps, that will be sagging, like, or the intestines will start coming out like hernia, okay. The uterus will be dropping, prolapses. All these things are because the spleen is becoming deficient and it is not able to hold the organs in its position, or the organs are not being able to rise against the gravity. Okay, so these are the four important functions of spleen: transformation of the food, converting food into food key, in a simple word, converting food into body. Okay, now, and that what it gets transformed, it has to be transported throughout the body. So it does it by itself and also with the help of lungs, and holding the blood within the vessels and raising the organs against the gravity. So these are the important functions. Now, the next one is spleen as per TCM. These are smaller aspects of spleen. It is but still important to know. Like different organs have different openings. The liver's opening is eyes, kidneys openings is ears, heart's opening is tongue. Similarly, the spleen's opening is mouth. There is a difference here between the mouth and the tongue. Okay, like tongue we discussed in detail last class. Like the earth, that is a food, enters through the mouth. Okay, before it reaches the stomach, what is the entry gate point? Entry point is the mouth. So that is why the TCM says like both stomach and spleen are paired organs. In that sense, the opening for the earth element is the mouth. Okay, and here it is once again an important thing. Okay, spleen is earth, and when that earth element in the body becomes weak, some people feel like eating the earthy elements, okay, to compensate for the lack of earth. They feel like eating chalk, pieces of earthen pieces, or some brick pieces, small tiny pieces. They like to eat sweet more. Like sweet comes under earth element in TCM. Okay, so they try to compensate the weak earth in their body by putting earth into the body. You would have seen that some people, okay, like it is a very clear indication that their spleen is weak. Some patients you will get to know. Okay, so this is one method of diagnosing. They like to eat lot of sweet craving. So for them, the spleen would be deficient. And very interesting fact here, both spleen and stomach are paired organs. So their likes and dislikes are opposite. Okay. The spleen likes dry and hot foods. Okay. Dry, and when I say hot, it is like spicy kind of food. Okay. So like ginger, pepper, uh, different kinds of spices. These kind of foods are liked by spleen. It likes to be dry. But when you put humid, okay, watery kind of food and cold raw food, it doesn't like it. But when it comes to stomach, it likes the humid food, like which is watery kind of food. Okay, when I say watery kind of food, it is not like only juices. I'm talking about, say, when you eat rice, there is sambar with it. Okay, that. So is the screen visible now?
Yes.
Okay, so we were discussing about the likes and dislikes between the stomach and spleen. So spleen likes dry and hot food and dislikes humid and raw foods. Okay, so that is why when somebody eats lot of raw food, okay, their spleen becomes weak. In naturopathy, they say the more raw you eat, it is good. But TCM says when you eat lot of raw food, the spleen will become weak. And a weak spleen gives rise to lot of diseases. Okay, so but when we take a look at the stomach likes humid food. It is some kind of watery kind of food. It is not juices, what I'm trying to say. I was giving the example of, say you eat rice and along with it there is sambar. Okay, so sambar is more humid in nature. If you eat a lot of dry food, stomach doesn't like it. Say for example, you eat bread is very dry. So when you put bread inside your stomach, what happens? There is acids in the stomach. The bread will absorb the acids. It is because it is dry, it will absorb the existing humidity within the stomach. But when you put, say, rice and sambar, the absorption of the acids is less comparatively. Okay, so the more dry food, if I keep on adding dry food into it, the stomach will have to produce more and more acids to compensate for all the dryness. Like if you put a sponge in a water, the sponge absorbs the water, right? So similarly, something similar is happening over here. So if you see, the likes and dislikes of spleen and stomach is like what you say, reverse. What spleen likes, the stomach dislikes it, and what the spleen dislikes, the stomach likes it. Both the organs are within the body. What does it mean that one is liking something and another one is disliking? It only means that the more the balanced the food is, the better it is for us. Okay, so why do we say balanced food is good? It is because it will satisfy both spleen and stomach, which are the two main organs which is doing the digestion. Okay, next, let's say why is that spleen dislikes humid environments? It is because now one of the important work of spleen is to raise the ki upwards. Okay, we know that. Okay, there are some new students. I request them to go through the previous videos, because you will miss out like many of the previous things that I would have already discussed, and you will miss it out. So please go through it. See, the energy of the stomach is moving it downwards, and the energy of the spleen is keeping moving things upwards, right? So now, what will move easily downwards? Say if there is a waterfalls, if you put anything, if the water is already moving downwards, okay, it will also move easily. Say if the river is flowing downwards, you put a boat on it, it will easily navigate it. So now the stomach is trying to send things downwards. If it has more fluid, humidity in it, it becomes easier to push it downwards, like a waterfalls. Okay, water you put from a higher area, higher height, it moves to the lower height. Okay, so it becomes easy for the stomach to move things downwards if it is humid, watery in nature. If it is very dry, it is very hard for it to push it downwards. So it doesn't like dry foods. Okay, it dislikes dry foods. But when it comes to spleen, it has to move upwards. If it is lot of humidity, it is an obstruction for it to move upwards, right? So it requires clean and dry kind of situation, so that it can move properly upwards. Say if you have anytime visited say KR market in Bangalore, okay, most of the Bangaloreans would know, in a rainy season, when it is lot of wet and dry, no, like all the things are it is a moist area, like how easy it for would be for you to navigate that place. Very difficult, right? So the KR market area when it is raining. So but when it is dry, you will be able to navigate it better. So similarly, the spleen likes dry environment and the stomach likes humid environment. So when we give both to it, both of them will function properly. So that is why it requires a balanced diet. Okay, so I have written here, spleen dislikes excess humid environment because humidity hampers in the movement of food ki upwards. It creates resistance. That is why, hence, spleen likes dryness. Okay, and another thing which depletes spleen is the thinking. Okay, someone who is constantly thinking. Say, thinking is also spending the energy, right? In some way, if I run, I am spending the physical energy. But if my thoughts are running, the body is there, but my thoughts are running, still I am using up the energy, isn't it? Thinking doesn't happen free of cost. It uses energy. So some amount of energy has to be given for each thought. So somebody, if they are constantly thinking, what is happening? They are using up that energy, and that energy comes from spleen. And somebody who is voracious readers, okay, their spleen will also be less. And somebody who is in lot of strain, the strain, thinking, excessive study depletes the spleen. But it doesn't mean that it is not an excuse for us to not read. You're telling that if I read, the spleen will become deficient. No. Okay, I should read, but it should not be excessive. Okay, so these are some of the tidbits in understanding the spleen. Okay, it works the other way also. See, somebody who thinks a lot, their spleen will become depleted. And if somebody's spleen is depleted, they will think a lot. Okay, in both the Okay, there is a question on how do we link reading to spleen. Say when there is reading, what happens? I read something, the information goes inside, and that information has to be processed in the mind, right? It is not just that you read and there is no processing happening, it just goes and sits. No. Once again, whatever you read, there is an energy spent to process that information. Once again, that energy spending comes from the spleen, and the spleen becomes depleted. Okay, they in here also we can say there should be a proper balance between the mental activity and the rest to the mind. So a combination of activity and a meditation, okay, is a good combination which helps the spleen maintain its balance. See, one of it is also told that, okay, that major problem, like or like a big chunk of problems comes through food. Like if the food is right, in Ayurveda we say that food is not aushadhi, it is a maha aushadhi. Means it is not a medicine, it is a super medicine, the food. So whenever there is a imbalance in food or imbalance in processing the food, that is the root cause of many problems in the body. Okay, either the food or the processing of the food. Now who does the processing? It is the spleen and stomach. And what the TCM says is, between these two, most of the problems comes either because of excess state of stomach or depleted state of spleen. The vice versa is not that true. So most of the problem comes when the stomach is excess and the spleen is deficient. Spleen becoming excess is less. Okay, mostly it will be deficient. Okay, and what makes it deficient is constant worry, thinking, and also second one is the type of food that we give, the humid and cold raw foods, too much of ice creams, etc., etc., a lot of salad, only juices, fruit juices, etc. Those things makes the spleen deficient. And the third thing, wrong timing of the food also makes the spleen deficient. If you are not eating in the right time, then the spleen will have to work extra to make the food like to digest that food. So if any organ is working extra, what happens? As in the natural course, it will become deficient. Okay, so what is the right time to eat food? Breakfast 7 to 8 in the morning, around 8 o'clock. You can think it is 8, like 15 minutes here and there. Okay, and the lunch 1 o'clock. Okay, 15 minutes here and there, and the dinner around 7 p.m. Okay, so this is the time when the body has the maximum energy to process the food. If I give you some work when you are less in energy, would you be able to do it efficiently? No. So say you are tired and you are about to go to bed. At that time, I give you some work. Okay, go do and this and this and this. Would you be able to do it efficiently? No, you are already tired. It is not your maximum energy time. So the efficiency of the work will be not good. So similarly, the earth, the spleen and stomach should be in a highest energy time when we eat the food, so that the food gets processed properly. So that is why the TCM has created a organ cycle. When we get into that chapter, we will discuss that. So because I was discussing about the spleen becoming weak, so that is also one of the main cause, the wrong timing of the food. So the wrong timing, the wrong type of food, and excessive thinking. These are the three reasons why the spleen becomes weak. Main reasons. There are other reasons also, so which we will discuss when we get into the diagnosis part of the spleen. We will go into the details of it. So for today, these are the main things about the spleen. So next we will discuss about the question. Okay. Okay, before we get into this, any questions on this? Anybody has any questions on today's topic or any of the previous topics?
Yeah, I have two questions. One from the previous class and another from what I read up in the treatise 7. But it is on it's little bit related to spleen only. On page 52, it says pure ki is sent upwards to lungs and heart by spleen. And on page 51, when it comes to talking about the 0.5 of kidney in chapter 4, it says impure fluids are sent downwards by kidney and kidney sends pure ki upwards. So I wanted to understand, what is this pure ki? Did I miss that class?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
So like
If there is a video, I will look into that.
Yes.
I don't want to
So
disturb.
we have discussed this. So there are, all the organs will have a direction in which it sends the energy downwards, upwards, circular. There are some organs which sends the energy downwards and some organs which sends the energy upwards. Okay. So
Yes,
like in
I'm
kidney,
aware of that.
so in that way, kidney does both. Okay, the waste fluids it sends downwards, and there is some other work it is supposed to do, that is the essence, etc., which are the pure form of the key. It has to send upwards. Okay, if you watch that video, we have discussed that in detail. So that is happening. And what was your other question on 52, page number 52?
Is pure ki same as true ki?
Okay, this also is like we have discussed it. See,
Okay.
like you watch that video once,
Okay.
and if you have any questions, we will take it up in any of the future classes. Okay.
Sure. And one question from last class, which was you discussed on kidney elaborately. I understand the kidney essence and what is the role of kidney yang. But the kidney yin is little bit fuzzy for me because I'm unable to understand what is the distinct difference between a yin function and a yang function. I mean, I understand that the anal sphincter closes because of kidney yin. There is so much discussed about the kidney essence and yang. In my mind, when I think of yang, I understand all functions of any given organ, including kidney, as a functional thing. So when it comes to yin, in my mind, I'm thinking it's the physical structure of the organ. I'm unable to understand how should I identify the behavior of kidney yin.
Okay, we will take a full class just on, like, not one full class, multiple classes on just yin and yang. Okay.
Oh,
so it is a
sure.
like a very vast and elaborate subject. When we take that up, no, you will understand it. I had told in this class, for now you understand it is like a two phases of coin. The whole coin we call it as key, and when we take it as individual faces, the head and tail, that we call it as yin and yang. Okay. So when we take up this session, we will discuss it in detail.
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome. Okay, so
Mr. Murthy sir, can I ask something?
Yes.
Now you said the spleen helps in the digestion of food along with the stomach.
Okay.
In the process. Now, stomach has some enzymes, like the salivary gland has enzymes, but we don't know what enzymes or what material is coming from the spleen, which is helping the stomach for digesting the food.
Okay. Okay. I would like to introduce Dr. Revati. She is a dentist, with more than 27 years of experience. Okay. So we have the Sushila madam, if she is there. Madam, your subgroup in this group is increasing. The number of doctors
Very good.
in this group is increasing.
So we are going to cause more confusion.
We are all.
Sorry,
I'm
welcome,
nothing,
Dr.
madam.
Revati. I'm Dr.
Yes, Dr. Sushila, I heard
Nice
your
to meet
session.
you.
Very nice to meet you. But I am zero
Well,
in the just 2 years old in this line and lots to learn. Lots to learn.
don't worry. Though I've been here for 5 years, there is a lot of fuzz around my head, like somebody was telling earlier. The concepts of the very aspects of various kits, still I'm not very clear myself. So don't worry, especially because we come with a baggage, Revati. We come with a baggage of our
We
concepts,
need to
which are
unlearn.
very
Yeah,
strong, which are
that's right.
extremely, ingrained into our psyche, and it's very hard to empty those concepts before we get in newer concepts, and they are quite diametrically opposite and
Yes, ma'am.
very I would say abstract. Their concepts are abstract. Ours are much more physical and demonstrable, so I can understand somebody
Correct.
having conscious thing. I always, till now, I will never believe. You remove the spleen, what happens? Sometimes you have injuries, you remove the spleen, but we don't die. If it was such a fundamentally important organ, why is that we're still alive? Has always been my question. But that I was explained to, saying that spleen is a kind of a esoteric. Dr. Anton Jaisurya, he's another allopath like us, who did went into TCM full time, and he went to China to learn Chinese, and then learned TCM in Chinese. So he has written a book called Clinical. I have this. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can see this. Can you
Yes,
see
ma'am.
this? This is the book that I first bought and read, and I found a little more. It is more vague. It's not as in depth as what Krishnamurti is teaching us or what our Samsthan books are telling us. But if you see the concept of, he says the liver, he says it is only a domain. I feel that those people didn't have anatomy, physiology, and all that, didn't know. So China, the TCM was written 2,000 years ago. So when they wrote it, the spleen was probably very close to the stomach. So they attributed some functions of digestion and things like that. So there is no such thing as enzymes and all those micro level things. So I think we have to,
Probably
like building suspension.
probably it's in the form of energy that it is helping in digestion. That's how
Exactly. So it is exactly not only energy, it is a vague esoteric domain. It's like more or less a function of a domain. When we talk about the earth element, it's a function of a particular domain, and the expression that it has. This is what I may be wrong. And the more you read, just now somebody was asking about the key. Even now, the various names that have been given in the key and its exact connotation or other its exact role, I have still to understand. So let's go along and try and learn. Okay.
Yes,
Welcome again. Nice to meet all of you guys.
Thanks.
Thank
Nice
you so
meeting you.
much. Bye.
Your lecture was very nice last Wednesday, I saw. Thank you.
So I
Sorry
just
for.
wanted to add to this point. Say, when we look into anatomy and physiology, we see the chemical compositions of like what kind of enzymes it is all releasing. But when we see in TCM, like we can see it is in terms of hardware and software. So the physical food is there, which the software gets added. We have no better way to explain it.
Well spoken like engineer. Well spoken like a software engineer.
That is what I have in my head. Probably whenever I get a better one, I will use it. So like without that, I keep on saying this because it is like it is important to ponder. I have mentioned this because I'm explaining this once again because Revati ma'am is new to the session. See, if the same food is eaten by say 10 different people, the same say salad or the same sandwich, when a male person eats it, the same sandwich gets turned into a male body. Female eats it, the same sandwich turns into a female body. If a monkey eats it, it gets converted into a monkey body of a monkey. A fair skinned person eats it, it becomes fair skin. Like the same food is getting converted into so many different aspects. Where is that information or intelligence coming from? Okay. So that intelligence, I call it as software. Okay.
Yeah.
That software is provided by spleen. Probably the physical enzymes, etc., are given by stomach, but the non-physical aspects are given by spleen. That is why we say both stomach and spleen together help in digestion.
If we see the structure, there are some connections between the stomach and spleen. Some arteries and everything is going around with the blood supply connection, but there is no mention of any digestive enzymes and all that. So I was just wondering whether I'm a dentist after all, so maybe I'm missing out on the spleen. So
Okay.
thank
Probably
you.
the
It's in the
finer
form of
details we don't know. At least I don't know.
Can I try answering in a little different way?
Yes, ma'am. Please.
Who's this? Show your
Baljeet.
face, please.
Baljeet, ma'am.
Yes,
Baljeet,
good
okay, hi.
morning from here, but good evening, sir. And so nice to be with Dr. Revati and with Dr. Kamal Nath. She's like my guru. I asked this question from my teacher that, my mother's gallbladder has been removed, or various people have their spleen removed. Then how does the gallbladder still function? And what is the, so I got an answer that the energy, the nadi is still flowing, the meridian is still flowing. Energy of the gallbladder, whether it's removed or not, the organ, irrelevant, but it's still processing. It's the rakt is flowing through that meridian, and the pathway is what is doing the function. So that is what answer I got. That's why they say sometimes if your left hand is cut off, you can do the treatment on the other hand. So it is primary and secondary functions in between. I'm not sure.
And I think
Organ goes, but the
Very
channel
nice,
stays.
very nice, Baljeet.
The channel stays and continues to give the energy.
yes, and say when some part of the brain gets damaged, other part of the brain takes over the work. So similarly, when spleen is removed, the liver takes over the function of spleen. In that way, there is some kind of give and take, or distribution of the work happens, and that is how it is happening. Hope there is some answer I gave.
Definitely. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prithvi.
Yes. Any other question?
You know what? All we allopaths have to de-stress, or rather said, debulk our head with all our,
Unlearning,
our own-
madam. We need to unlearn a lot. Probably there will be some TCM point for that.
No, please unwind with us, because we want to know that all that what you are unwinding.
It's not unwinding. We have to find a sink, where it sinks. Where, like so nicely Baljeet told us, it is very true. It is the esoteric, the spiritual, and the physical. So we are treating with the physical science. We are not talking here about energy science. Energy in the terms of prana, of the higher functions. See, man understands higher functions and lower functions. Animals act by instinct. So there is a difference between us. So in the teachings of TCM, they have probably amalgamated both of them to understand that, the like she said, even though the gallbladder comes off, its spirit, or rather its presence, its esoteric spiritual function is definitely there. Like she said, it lingers. So in fact, even in Ayurvedic acupressure, I have asked this question many times, and all the gurus, the big gurus that who I listened to, told me that it is there. You may have removed it physically, but spiritually, actually, in its esoteric presence, it is there. So similarly, if you have lost your uterus, God sends us with some function, some spiritual function, physical things. So physical function may stop, but the spiritual function is always there. Like gallbladder will continue to dominate your life. Life with its role and function will be there in its own dominant way. Nobody can take it away, and that you can tone or manipulate it through the teachings of, either whether acupuncture, acupressure, and by magnets or whatever, colors, whatever. So that is the only explanation I told myself to make all this at least palatable to me. So now I am quite liking to enjoy. I'm actually enjoying the taste of this new concepts. Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
Balreet, again.
Welcome, ma'am. Thank you.
So we have about 9 minutes left. So any questions before I get into this excess and deficient question which was raised in the group?
Hello, sir.
Let's finish. Let's finish this nagging question.
Okay, so
Hello,
we will
sir.
take this. Yes, somebody was trying to
Yeah.
speak. Yes,
Yes, sir. Myself, Meeta.
yes, ma'am.
Actually, my mom is suffering from myasthenia gravis, and I attended Archana ma'am class, and she said myasthenia gravis is related to spleen collapse, spleen T collapse.
Okay.
So I wanted to have clarification on this.
Okay, disease specific, it will become difficult. I will have to understand
Is she
the
asking
concept of myasthenia gravis.
TCM.
So probably we can take
Shall
it
I
up a
tell
little
you?
later. Yes, Sushila ma'am, you were
Yeah, okay.
saying something.
No, I just said, see, myasthenia gravis, how is it related to spleen? I'll tell you later, next time. Okay, not now, because there is possibly, I'm a pathologist, so I have a pathological explanation of that. Probably they have intuited it, but I will explain it in a little more earthly manner. So come on, go ahead and finish this excess and deficient first.
Okay, so there was a question like how does this excess and deficient work within the human body? Say we all know this cycle, right? So creative and except the new ones, they may not know, but most of us know. So there are 10 organs, 5 elements. I am not taking up the triple warmer and the pericardium here. So 5 organs and 5 pair of organs. And each of this, like yin and yang, you consider it to be like a weighing machine. Okay. So, human body is such that even though one organ depends on the functioning of all the organs, as much as it depends, it is also independent by itself. Okay, this is very important to understand. Any organ is dependent, also at the same time independent. So an organ can be deficient, at the same time it can be excess also. Okay, this is advanced stuff I'm trying to teach. New ones, please don't get worried about it. Okay, just because the question came up, I am trying to explain this. Okay, so there is a, for example, imagine between say heart and small intestine. Okay, here the yin and yang. So these two transfer the energies as and when needed. Okay, one is less, so the other one gives it. So the other one is less, the first one gives it. Okay, in that way they try to balance the energy within that own element. Okay, say fire is the element in which heart and small intestine comes. So if there is any excess or deficient within the fire, they interchange. Okay. So what most of us we know is that one organ is excess and the other organ will become deficient because this organ is excess, right? So that is okay. Abdul, I think you will have to mute yourself, please, unless you are asking a question. Okay, so now within, let us not go to the paired organ. Okay, we will just stick to one organ itself. Okay, it is not necessary that the organ has to remain in the same state of excess or deficient always. I will take an example of the heart here. Okay. So let's say the heart is deficient, heart key deficient. That is a state. Now, lot of anger erupts in that person. Okay, the feeling of revenge or hatredness, all of that just pops up. Now, what happens suddenly? Heart comes into excess state. It gets into heart fire blazing. Now that question can come. It is deficient, but how it can get excess? No, it would have drawn the energy from somewhere here and there. Okay, like each organ is connected to all the organs, right? That is the understanding. See, if you see here, every organ is connected with all the other organs through, say, for let us take liver over here. Okay, liver is connected to heart, and it is also connected to kidney in this way, and it is connected to the spleen in this arrow, and it is connected with the lungs with this arrow. But this arrow is not unidirectional, it is bidirectional. So heart is connected with all the yin organs, and it is connected with one yang organ. Okay, so liver is connected with the gallbladder. Now that gallbladder has the same map of connection with all the yang organs. Now through that one connection of the yang organ, liver is connected to all the yang organs, and liver itself is connected to all the yin organs. So one organ is connected to all the organs. Every organ is connected to every organ, right? This is, with this understanding, we'll come back here. Now, first, the level of disturbance can happen within the organ itself. Okay, at that point, it will take and give energy, like somewhere, anywhere where there is, it can feel that there is excess energy, it will take it. It does not always have to be from the paired organ first. Okay, it is my understanding. I may be wrong. Say, like when you learn the energy transfer part, you will know this more. Okay, see, if the mother and son organ, say if its previous organ is having higher energy, if it is moving from this lower energy to higher energy, from heart key deficiency to heart fire blazing, it has to get that excess energy from somewhere. Either if the small intestine has extra energy, it will take it, or if it is bringing from the mother-son relationship, it will take from the mother, or it will give less energy to the son and then it will keep more energy for itself, or the controlling organ, okay, the organ which is controlling this, it will take from there, or the organ which this organ is controlling, it will take it from there. So it has different permutation and combinations with which it can take. Okay, it will decide. Okay, so it will be very difficult for us to decide or say that this is the only way that it will take. It depends on the current provision which is there in the body. Depending on where the energy is excess, it will try to suck. And so when we come to one particular element, okay, then the exchange of say the earth, maybe say the earth is spleen is less. At the same time, stomach also may be less. It means that out of all the five, these balances, weighing balances, the earth as an entire element is less. Okay, I think the time is running out. Probably I will. Okay. So hope the screen is visible. So I'll just try to complete what I was trying to say. See here, if you see as a weighing, like balance, okay, there are three types of balance happening here. One within the organ itself, one between the pair of organs, and the next is among all the organs. So 3 level of balancing happens. So where it takes, how it takes will depend on which has more energy, which has less energy. Okay. So if the first level of energy exchange can happen from the husband and wife. It has close relationship. Okay, the paired organ. So it may take from this. But if this also is deficient, then it may take from its mother. Now the mother is also deficient. Now it may give less to the son. So in that way, it has multiple different options to balance itself. Okay. So that is how the organ manages the excess and deficient condition. Say another example that we can take is liver yin deficiency, yang rising. Okay, there is a protocol on this. So here the yin is deficient and the yang is excess. At the same time, there is deficiency and also excess. So as I had told, it is the concepts are quite advanced. I am trying to my best to keep it as simple as possible so that I don't intimidate the newcomers. I hope this is answering the question. Okay. Like the person who had asked this question, like can you just say yes or no, or something is not clear?
I think I started the chain, but question was more about if a patient is already getting treated for a chronic protocol where they're treating a deficient condition, and then suddenly an excess condition starts, and they are having these allergy attacks, for example, which is one of the most excess condition which happens, seasonal allergies. Then what do? Do we stop the chronic protocol and then switch to treating the excess condition? So that was my initial thought, and I think my question is answered.
Okay.
Because clearly we have to treat the excess condition first. It's stopping everything else, and then back to the original.
Right. Okay. So this part we will discuss. There is a whole big subject on this. Like mother and son points, etc. So we will have a discussion on that if we reach that point. Okay. But apart from this, anybody else has any other question on this?
Anybody? I have a question. Vinitra here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, one organ you're saying it can be deficient and as well as excess. So it will be based on the symptoms when we say the organ is deficit now and the organ is in excess. It will be on the momentary symptoms, is it?
Yes, that is why symptom is so crucial to understand. See, and the diagnosis, when we say, for example, here, heart fire blazing, I will take this example itself. See, when there is heart key deficiency, we look into the symptoms. Okay. It may be difficult to figure it out through tongue. But when it gets to the excess condition, now it becomes very evident through the tongue. Okay, the tongue like shows it. So the diagnosing is that fine art of understanding what is excess and what is deficient at that point. Okay, it doesn't mean I give a treatment, that treatment itself will goes on for a long period of time. No, there may be ups and downs in between, and I will have to balance that. Okay, and if it is for a patient, then we will have to ask the patient to visit us intermittently, like say once in 2 weeks, or depending on the comfort level of the patient, so that we can check what is the current energy state of the body. Does it answer?
I have one more question. Can I ask?
Yes, please.
I have one more question. From the example you had suggested, if we are treating a patient for heart fire blazing related, say a CP child or No, or a maniac child, ADHD child, very aggressive. During the treatment, if the child, how will you know if the child goes into a deficiency? What would be an indicator? Like how, when will it be a call for them to come approach the therapist for a change? Because they should not be doing hard fire blazing for a heart deficiency at that time.
See, it is like the subject of diagnosis is a vast subject. Okay, it will take lifetime to understand it. Okay, I can take one particular instance and try to explain it, not as an entire no, generic rule cannot be given in this very short period of time. Okay, when there is heart key deficiency, it gives one kind of symptoms, and when there is heart fire blazing, the symptoms will change. So based on the change of symptoms, the treatment will have to change. That is why, like, it is advised to have, if not frequent visit, at least intermediate visits to the therapists, like at least once in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, maximum once a month. Unless we know that, okay, it has all the excess have been taken care and only we are treating deficiency, so then it is fine, a long duration like 1 month. Otherwise, more frequent visit to the therapist would be advised. As a therapist, how do I know when it is excess and how do I know when it is deficient is a learning process of diagnosis. It is not a one short answer. Does it answer your question?
Thank you. I understood the concept. Yes, thank you, sir. I understood the concept of how it is working. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Yes. I think Sushila ma'am has...
Can I add something?
Yes, sure, ma'am.
Yeah, I raised my hand because, see, even in modern medicine, there is what we will talk about balances in the body. Similarly, here, everything is in balance, right? The yin and yang, constantly this whole effort of excess and deficiency, constant changing is taking place to bring the body back to a state of homeostatic balance. In other words, all functions to be normal. And even we, physiologically accept that no matter how much stimulation there is, when it comes to the physiological healthy state, it doesn't go down, it remains there. So whatever this, it has got some mechanism by which it controls itself. Like in medicine, we have, what should we say, the hormones, they have got a feedback mechanism. Similarly, the neurological, endocrinal, as well as now they say the microbiome itself is controlling your entire body functions to bring it to a sense of balance. So that balance in itself, intrinsically, it is never over or under. So I personally believe that no matter how much you stimulate a thing that is it is in a state of deficiency, it will accept to a particular state. When it comes to a balance, it won't go beyond, if you know what I mean. It balances means like the weight, like he has put the weighing scale over here, the weight remains and both the sides remain balanced. So the achievement is balance. So balance in TCM is through the energy systems. Yeah, I just told him I'm after 4 or 5 years of being at it now, finally seeing the end of the tunnel through the various systems. Like we have the various organ systems that we have in the body, we have these energy balancing systems between each other through the various cycles, anti-control, control. Then you have the mother-son relationships. All these things are balancing, bringing the balance into power. It can happen, like he said, between yin and yang in one element, or it can cross elemental borders and be connected with each other. Just like you have hormones and all these things, bringing your body, including your, body temperature, everything is finally governed by the head, right? By the brain. So similarly, there is a system here. I'm beginning to see the light of the tunnel. Thank you so much, Krish. I really appreciate it. I'm so thrilled. I'm really thrilled. Today has made my day.
And one thing to add is like the progress of the disease in TCM also depends upon the 6 division theory. Like that first comes to the Tai Yang, then Shao Yang, then Yang Ming, and the Tai Yin, Shao Yin, like Ju Yin, like that. So that also we have to consider.
Yeah, like most of them here are from, okay, I want to introduce Liti Rajesh madam. She is from UK, and she like, could you just briefly tell what you have studied, ma'am? Like, she is from a different school of acupressure.
Uh, no. I haven't studied something like that. Just I'm a geophysicist. Just studied some acupuncture.
Yeah, she has studied acupuncture. That is why she's telling all the Chinese names. See, in like, if we look into the third semester, that is Dr. Wall's subject. I don't know if it has been introduced to you. There also there are 6 different stages of disease
Progression of the disease.
of diseases. So depending on where it is happening, first it will get into the excess condition. Slowly it will try to fix
It penetrates
it there,
into
then
the
it will
deeper
move into
levels
patient
of the.
condition. So it is a process, as you told. Yes, it goes through a cycle of itself. Okay, so any other question?
Nice. This is a wonderful session. Great session. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so hope I have answered all the questions, and if there are any further, you could put it in the group and I'll try to answer it. Okay, so thank you all. Have a good evening, morning, afternoon, depending on your place. So we will meet next time. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Very interesting and very nice.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.